Welcome everybody. Thank you very much for attending this webinar on the MSc Trauma Sciences from Queen Mary, University of London, and what used to be known as Barts and the London Medical School. Welcome everyone. So there's three of us here to give you a brief overview of the programme and then to answer any questions that you may have. Feel free to go to the chat, feel free to speak if you so wish, and we will endeavour to answer whatever we can. If for whatever reason we can't answer it today, I'm sure that we'll be able to find the answer and let you know. Right, okay, so welcome again. MSc Trauma Sciences webinar. My name is Chris Aylwin, that's my ugly mug on the left. And my co-director is Dr. Elaine Cole, who you can see spotlighted on Zoom. I am a trauma surgeon and at the Royal London Hospital, and I am a senior lecturer in trauma sciences. Elaine is a nurse by background, very senior nurse in emergency department by background, and is also a senior lecturer. And we co-direct the trauma sciences MSc. We're just figureheads. These are some of the more important people, especially top left. That's Chris. Chris is also live on here. Chris Gunton is our admin guru for a whole range of MSCs within Queen Mary, and she will probably have most contact with students on the programme, answering all sorts of questions, badgering people for both faculty and students to make sure that things are done on time and in the right way. She understands the university, whereas we don't necessarily. Top right is Jack Rappaport. She was a teaching fellow providing support to the MSc. She's now just been promoted to a senior lecturer across, again, a whole range of MSCs within QM. And she is a fantastic port of call for any students who are finding things a little bit difficult, need a little bit of support in terms of writing or any other types of issues that you don't feel like you can come to either of us three. Bottom left and bottom right are two of our co-directors on the orthopaedic side of the MSc. So there's an MSc in orthopaedic trauma. We share a lot of content, and the dissertations are done jointly between the two programs. Pete Bates is on the left, is an orthopaedic surgeon, trauma and orthopaedic surgeon at the Royal London, and Kash Akhtar, again, trauma and orthopaedics and senior lecturer. And the guy in the middle is Dad. Guy in the middle is Professor Karen Brohy. He is professor of the department. He's professor of trauma sciences. He's a trauma surgeon colleague of mine at the Royal London Hospital, and he set up the programme 10 years ago. So he's the founder of the MSc and is all of our boss, and is still very active within the content and leads a module as well. So you get access to all of us quite a lot if you should so want it. We're based in Whitechapel. This is the Blizzard Institute, based at Barts and the London, or Queen Mary, University of London, Whitechapel campus. For those of you who don't know, Whitechapel is in the East End of London. It's traditionally a very diverse and poor part of the UK. It's in Tower Hamlets, one of the poorest boroughs, and this looks like a shining beacon within the rest of Whitechapel that is not so shiny. Having said that, you are predominantly joining this as, well, if you sign up, you are joining as a distance learning student. So you won't have a huge amount of physical access to this unless you are local, in which case, if you are local, you can certainly use all of the facilities of Queen Mary as you wish it. We also are linked, obviously, to the major trauma centre at the Royal London Hospital, which is literally just across the road from this building. Again, a nice big shiny blue building, and it's the busiest and largest trauma centre in Europe. I'm going to hand over to Elaine in a second, but this is what we call QM+. I think it's actually just been updated 2 days ago, so it looks slightly differently. So this is our Blackboard. Those of you familiar with online learning, universities have versions of virtual learning environments or Blackboards where all the content is placed. So you get access to this website QM+ that has the entirety of the talk content on it, as well as a lot of other resources, Twitter feeds, access to both live tutorials and any recorded tutorials as we go through the 2 years. And I will now hand over to Elaine to talk through the specifics of the course. Elaine.
Thanks, Chris, and welcome everybody to the webinar from me. Next slide, please. So this is a very sort of simplistic schematic of the content of the 2-year Masters in Trauma Sciences. The first year is highlighted in yellow, and you can see that the first year runs over 3 semesters. Semester 1 starts in September and runs through to the sort of the holiday Christmas period, and there are 3 modules within that first semester. I lead the first module, which is basically sort of an overview and epidemiological trauma systems module, basically sort of sets the scene for the whole program. Then we move on to a module specifically around bleeding and the inflammatory responses to injury, led by one of our colleagues, Ross. Then we have a module on neurotrauma, which is led by consultant neurosurgeon Gronya. Each module runs for 4 weeks in terms of online content and tutorials, and then the modules that have a written assignment have an extra week to allow students time to complete the assignment, and more on that in a minute. So moving into semester 2, after the sort of Christmas holiday period, the first module there is torso trauma. It's a very sort of surgically focused module led by Chris, my colleague, my co-director. Then we move on to a module around extremity injuries and vascular trauma, which is led by an orthopedic surgeon, and Chris inputs there. Then Prof. Bro, he takes you through critical care trauma. And then finally, in the last semester of the first year, so just before we enter the summer, there is an elective module where students can choose to either study for 4 weeks about burn injuries and wounds, or if they've chosen to do the Trauma Sciences MSc with a military and humanitarian focus, then this is where that module, that elective module, is taken, and that's led by an international Red Cross surgeon based in Greece. So that's the first year. Then we have a summer break where we run summer school for 2 weeks, and in fact summer school is on at the moment. I say 2 weeks, it's about 10 days in total. And students choose to, it's not mandatory, but students choose to travel to the UK and to London and spend some time together with us, the faculty, other speakers, other students, and there are a range of sessions, and I'll show you some of those in a moment. We move into year 2, again starting in the September of the year, and the first module in year 2 is focusing on research methods. I lead that, and we sort of do a broad overview of all of the different types of research methodologies that you may come across within the field of trauma. And then following that, we move straight into the dissertation, and we have the whole of the second year then dedicated to the students completing a dissertation project, which will then, once submitted and passed, will allow them to exit with the award of MSc in Trauma Sciences. Next slide, please. This is an example of the one of the online lectures. So the lectures are pre-recorded and they are converted to videos and embedded within the virtual website that Chris showed you before, Chris Elwyn showed you before, and Chris Gunton very kindly helps us sort of coordinate each of the modules so the students get access to the right lectures at the right time for the learning outcomes and the assessment. So this is an example of one of the lectures, of one of the slides of one of the lectures, let's say, with Mr. Griffiths, who's a consultant trauma surgeon, and he's also the National Director for Violence Reduction in the UK. Chris, thank you. And then within each module, so within each of those 8 modules that I showed you, the module leader or another invited speaker will conduct an online tutorial every week. And this is Prof. Brohi here. You can't see him, but he's talking to his laptop, talking to the students who are at the online tutorial. And we run them at different times, but we tend to sort of run them in the evening UK time. And for those students who can't attend the online tutorials, because we know most people are also busy clinicians, then they're recorded. And tutorials might involve the discussion of a case, the discussion of a particular problem, maybe the review of a piece of research or a recently published article. It may be a discussion around the assignment or around the dissertation. So students have the pre-recorded lectures, and then within the module, once a week, they have access to either the module leader or one of the other faculty for a sort of a face-to-face session. Thanks, Chris. Each module has an assignment, and 4 of the modules have an essay, and 4 of them have a timed multiple choice question exam. As with all of the programs within Queen Mary, students are allowed 2 attempts at a module assignment. So should you fail the assignment at first attempt, you're allowed to resit it at a later date, as advised by the academic regulations. So yeah, there's a nice split between assignments. Some students haven't written an essay, certainly not a level 7 MSc essay for quite a long time or ever. And so we do have guidance, as Chris said. We have Jack, who's a recent lecturer, and she gives academic development guidance. And then there are some timed MCQ exams again that sort of sit within the module. Finally, as I've said, there's a dissertation which is in the 2nd year, and that leads to the award. And we also very much encourage our students to publish their dissertations, and we have a very good track record in publications following the MSc. Thank you. So as I said, summer school is on at the moment, and there are a range of sort of activities. There's a few talks. We try not to have it sort of very lecture heavy. There are a few talks. There is some group work activities that the students sort of participate amongst each other, and they've got the presentations of that tomorrow, which we're looking forward to. And then there are some practical sessions that all of the students will do, irrespective of their clinical background. And here you can see the students up on the helipad on top of the Royal London Hospital that Chris just told you about, the Major Trauma Centre. So, you know, there's an opportunity to have a look around the MTC, have a look around the helipad, meet some of the staff that work there. And students, whilst they're in London, if they're not based in London, may choose to go and visit other places. Because we do have faculty from a number of hospitals across London and other places within the UK and internationally. So we do have good links with other centres. Thanks, Chris. And then one of the things that the students do during summer school is a day of simulation, where we have clinical simulations, and students are expected to participate in very realistic trauma team resuscitations that are linked to specific learning outcomes, and it allows us to sort of talk through some of the clinical learning, some of the sort of latest clinical practice, and also around team working, comms, human factors, things like that. So this is always quite a stressful day for the students, but it's always very, very much enjoyed. Thanks, Chris. The students also spend a day up on the helipad where they work with the pre-hospital team. So you can see Dr. Greer here simulating heavy rainfall as the students are resuscitating somebody at a simulated scene of an injury. So again, some of our students work in pre-hospital care, but a large proportion will work in a hospital. So this is a very unfamiliar environment for them. And it's a great learning opportunity to try and understand the whole sort of breadth of trauma science. Thanks, Chris. And we also have not shown here, we also have a day where the students are taught surgical trauma skills. Either if they are surgeons, they get access to senior people like Chris, where they can really hone their trauma surgery skills, or if they're not surgeons, then we can sort of teach them the fundamentals of, you know, how to hold a scalpel, how to make an incision, how to sort of understand what the basics of trauma surgery might involve. So that's done within the Royal Veterinary College, and we don't have photographs because that's a closed shop environment, but again, very well evaluated. So in summary, we have a 2-year distance learning MSc Trauma Sciences, very sort of theory and content heavy in the first year, very research focused in the second year. There is a summer school at some point in the middle or towards the end of the first year where students can come together should they wish to meet the faculty and consolidate learning. And we have students that basically come from a variety of clinical settings. We probably should have said this earlier on, but the majority of our students are doctors working in any field of trauma care, surgery, EM, ICU, anesthesia, or we have some paramedics, and we also have nurses working again in the fields of trauma care, either EM, trauma wards, or ICU. So anybody who's an active clinician with, we would say, at least 6 months, if not preferably a year of post-registration or post-graduation experience, we think is suitable for our programme. But I'll open it up now to questions, and perhaps Chris can close the presentation and we can see if any of you have added any questions into the chat. Or feel free to speak up. Thank you.
Thanks, Elaine. Right, over to you guys. We're here now for you to answer anything that you might have. Feel free to speak up, feel free to use. Are the dates of the summer school known yet for next year? Katie, yes, they are. Do you want to know? Chris, I'm going to say the end of June.
Yeah, definitely around the last week of June. We've got.
I think it's the last week and a half of June.
Mm.
I'll just jump in while we're waiting for some more chat. We have chosen to move it from August this year because, as I say, a lot of our students are working clinically, and August in the UK is traditionally a time where doctors change jobs, so it can be challenging to get leave at that time. And also it's a holiday period for a lot of Europe and other parts of the world, and people with families sometimes struggle to come along in August.
So I've got the 22nd of June to the 30th of June next year. Although that still potentially might change. But it's going to be around then. How flexible are the deadlines and potentially going on deployment next year? The military will be supporting me to study with the laptop, but there may be times when I don't have access for a week. Chris.
Unmuted successfully, good. So with regards to the lectures, the content is released at the beginning of the module. So you can, if you know you're going to be away for a week, for example, you can either watch content early or late within the module. With regards to assessments, we are able to cater to those being deployed at sort of, reasonably last minute, as it were. We have an extenuating circumstances policy where things like that can be taken into account. Sort of standardly across the university, it would be things like, sort of an illness or sort of death in the family, for example. But because of the nature of our programme and the students that we have, sometimes that the deployment thing is covered for us. So, I mean, the best thing is always just to get in touch with me as soon as you know you're aware of something coming up, and then we'll get you advised correctly on what to do and when.
I hope that answers, Andrew. Yeah, good. Katie, anything that can be done to reduce the gaps in knowledge between doctors and AHPs? Elaine, I'm going to let you answer that.
Thank you very much. So yes, you haven't done 5, 6, 7 years of medical school, but I'm presuming, Katie, that you work in trauma with trauma patients as a paramedic. And so this is often an anxiety that a lot of our non-medical students have. And whilst, for example, on the neurotrauma module or the torso trauma module, you might need to do a little bit of reading around cerebral physiology or vascular physiology, etc. At the end of the day, all of our content, or the majority of our content, focuses on traumatic injuries and the underpinning of that and the management of that and the outcomes of that. So, for example, a junior trainee anaesthetist may not be very familiar with the physiology of the brain because it's been a long time since they've been at medical school or they haven't looked at it. So I always say to students, listen to the lectures, do some pre-reading, which we can recommend, and think about the application to clinical practice. And most people are absolutely fine. I think the other thing that people worry about is that if they've come from a profession where they haven't done a lot of research, and again, we teach research skills, so irrespective of your background, that isn't usually a problem. But having said that, all of that, this MSc is quite challenging. There is expectations around you working at level 7 master's level. And so, you know, if you know it's been a long time or not ever that you've ever studied, for example, normal clotting or abnormal clotting, then again, we would expect you to sort of preload yourself on that.
Thanks, Elaine. Simon, you're currently in F1, so you literally just started this year, I'm assuming. You might argue that could be a little bit early to take on a master's program, full stop, let alone this one. That's not to say that we've never, OB, you an ED nurse prior to school. Well, I see now you're showing off. Okay, so if you think you're happy to do this program, it's up to you. In terms of dropping in and out of summer school, we would tend to recommend against that. The whole idea being that the whole group of people are there together, get to know each other, work together in groups. So dropping, you know, in and out is less than ideal. We're very wary though that taking 2 weeks off as either study or annual leave is a big ask for lots of people, which is why we are reducing it, or hoping to reduce it next year to just over a week. So I think 5 or 6 days probably, or 6.5 days might be all that is required next year. So it's up to you. So, you know, we can't say don't do the program, but we would probably not want you to come to summer school unless you can do the whole thing. Would that be fair, you two?
I'd say, yeah, generally, yes. It's because, you know, there is some group work, there is some sort of group commitment that you need to sort of sign up to. And for all of the other reasons that Chris has said, but, you know, we're also trying to be as inclusive and as flexible as possible. So if you decide to come onto our program, which we would be delighted about, then, you know, and it's a real problem, then we can have a conversation.
Just don't underestimate anybody how much work this is. And okay, Simon, you're probably in a better place than a lot of other F1s, but getting to understand the NHS and your job plus doing a master's, it's a significant amount of work, which is why we tend to suggest waiting at least a year after you know, you begin your professional career, albeit understood that you ex-ED nurse, so you have an advantage. Anything else from anyone?
Anything about the content that we haven't covered? All clear?
No? Okay. Well, if nobody else has any questions, I'll very slowly start saying goodbye, just in case somebody. Oh yeah, okay. So there is the email address. Thank you, Chris.
Great.
Take a note of that in case any of you want to ask us anything else. Fees, Chris. Yes.
In what regard fees? If it's about fee status, then admissions classify that. No worries. But if it's how fees are paid, I can advise on that. It's normally they're payable up front for each year, but you can apply for a payment plan, which costs £50, and then you pay half of the fee in September and the other half of the annual fee in the following January. Is that what you were looking for? Okay, you haven't had a response. Okay, I mean, feel free to, I'm not like, you know, legally allowed, but I've worked in admissions for years, so I can guide you loosely. So feel free to contact me on the Trauma Masters email.
They should be presumably quite busy as of today.
Yeah, UCAS, I'm sorry, A-level results out, yeah.
But so somebody should be there. How many hours per week of lectures? That depends a little bit on the module. My module has, gosh, can't remember now, 7 or 8 a week, I think. And we try and keep them short. So we don't want you to have to sit in front of, you know, an hour and a half of someone droning on about something. So, you know, short and sharp, but probably, you know, max 30, 40 minutes each.
Yeah, some of the other modules that I'm involved with, yeah, I agree, Chris, we're looking at between about sort of 6 to 9 hours a week. Some of them are a bit longer, but remember the benefit of this program is you can stop it and then you can go back and look, watch the rest of the talk at a time that's convenient for you. The tutorials and meetings are not on the same day every week because the majority of people who deliver the tutorials are clinicians or people like myself that have got another job as well. So we're sort of flexible with our time. More importantly, we're aware that we have to be sort of flexible for other students because we've found in the past that running tutorials every day, every week on the same day doesn't work for all students. So we sort of try and sort of share the love a bit, shall we say.
And don't worry, Carla.
What I said, they're recorded.
Yeah, they are recorded. And don't worry, Carla, my on-call days are also often Tuesday, so I won't do any mine on Tuesday. Home fees, you're from Ireland. Christine, I'm assuming that's not a question. I don't understand fees, so don't ask me. Okay, good.
Thank you.
Right. I think most of you have said something. Thank you, David. Yeah. I got my final results for my BSc top-up this week and I meet the criteria for my conditional after BSc in 6 weeks. This stopped me starting this year as I've not managed to submit my evidence yet. Chris.
6 weeks. I'm trying to think where we are at now. It will mean you can't enroll until do you have, is this, what qualification is this? I should be able to scroll back and see if you've asked the question before.
Sorry, I might just unmute myself. It might be easier.
Sounds like a good shout.
So yeah, so I did my para through the trust and got my diploma, and then did my BSc top up through Cumbria.
Right.
I got confirmation of my results for last year in October. I have emailed the uni to try and ask for it to be rushed through because I've got it and I know I've got it. I'm well within my offer and I'm more than happy to screenshot my results for all my stuff for this year if that's easier. But obviously that's not a formal confirmation.
I think it depends on what admissions will accept. So it might be, if you want to pop me what you've got through to the email address I've put in the chat, I can have a look at that. I mean, again, I can't say exactly what admissions are going to affect, but I can sort of see the likelihood potentially. But normally for you to be able to enrol and start the program and access anything, they would want to have confirmation of the award. So do you know when that's, so it's not necessarily the specific results, it's the award having been made as well.
Oh, right, okay. Yeah, because I know I've hit my first, which is fine. And I'm more than happy. I've got all my Turnitin results, which I can screenshot through with the confirmation of last year's results, but whether that'll be accepted or not.
Yeah, part of it is because you can't be registered with 2 universities at the same time. So the reason for the award confirmation is so that they ensure that you're finished, you're sort of shut down with your previous university before you enrol here. It's not permitted to be sort of active at 2 universities at once.
Right, okay. I'll probably give them a ring next week when it's all calmed down with the A levels.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great. Well, if that's it, thank you very much for coming and engaging with us. And we hope that we can see as many of you as possible, either this year, next year, or some other year. So do feel free to drop us a line if there's anything else that you want to ask. And we will endeavour to give you the best answer that we can. But if there is literally nothing else, I'll say good evening and have a lovely rest of the week.
Thank you. Bye-bye.